I'm upside down today. Sorry, folks. I'm gonna troubleshoot that. Hello. Hope everyone's all right.
Hello, everyone. I think we have quite a packed agenda for today, so just checking whether all the presenters are here today. Okay, we have presenters from PipeCD who are here today. Microx is here today as well. Victor, I already saw. All right, and I would actually kick it right off with the PipeCD presentation if you're fine. Trent, right?
Yeah. Thank you. So let's start with me. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Take it like roughly 10 minutes plus questions, ideally.
Okay. Let me share the screen. This one. Okay. You guys see my slide? Okay. So I will start with my presentation about PipeCD. And my name is Kai, and you can communicate. And I use the same slide create for the PipeCon, but not yet used because I cannot go offline there. So sorry for that. And today the agenda will be like this. And I will start with the reason for PipeCD exists. And the story starts with our company structure. And you can see that start from the top, we separate to multi-department, and each department has multiple teams. And interesting point here is our company, we don't have any kind of guideline or something and standard, and each team have their own full ownership for design what platform and what CD they want to use for their product, and they maintain it for themselves. And the point is one day everyone that GitOps is something that we all want to have in our pockets, and our company decided that we want to introduce the GitOps style CD system for the whole company as a standard. And we're facing the problem that there is so many platforms is using, and so many different things are using across the company. So how can we have a single standard CD that follow GitOps style for every team that easily to adopt? That's why we create PipeCD, because we do not find any existing solution for that. And what we aim to have for CD at the time when we create PipeCD is something I note here. We want a consistent process for all platform, for all team, and it must be easy enough for everyone, and it must as a modem CD, it should be provide fast and useful feedback loop for the safety in context of CI/CD separate and GitOps style CD. I think is the feature that provided by default, so I don't talk it here. The PipeCD is the PipeCD is the consistent. It's follow GitOps style in mind. So yeah, the flow is straightforward and simple. You make a PR to the configuration Git repo, and it be reviewed and merged, and PipeCD will take care of the rest. And I put here is some example for Cloud Run application type. You can see here the right left, the right top, we have a configuration directory for the Cloud Run application, and you have to define service and have to define a configuration file for PipeCD, and it looks like this. And you will get the pipeline that running for the right bottom. Interesting thing is for Kubernetes application, this is exactly the same. Just one configuration file and the whole manifest compact, and you will get quite same pipeline. The only different one is the pipeline constructs of different state that's strict with the application type. That's all. And for easy for everyone, the process is straightforward. And access previously, we just need to prepare a configuration, and you need to install a PipeCD agent, and that all. PipeCD will take the rest after the merge. For the pipeline construction, it's easy and consistent across the application type. Currently, we have two kinds of state that we use to construct a pipeline. that is kind of strict, something like cumulative canary roll out, primary roll out, and ground run promote and something, and some kind of common state like wait approval, analysis, and custom bind. This custom bind means that you can use binary to run the state. And easy for everyone. Number 2 is maximum the visibility. And it is the simple view of the PipeCD application detail page. You can see some interesting information here, like the application sync state. And below is the different, the diff between the live and the heat manifest that's showing in detail. And the below is application information plus the live state showing in graph, just like other CD like ROCD. And this is a sample deployment detail page. You can see that one pipeline is built by multiple states, just like we write in the pipeline definition. And click to one state will show the log for the one state as well. For the next point, our solution need to have need to provide a fast and useful feedback, and that's why we think useful feedback should be provided just not only just the time when we apply the manufacturing thing, but we need that through the CD work. So we decide to have, we have feature to support and feedback through the deployment on pre, on, and post deployment. For pre-deployment, we have plan preview feature. The plan preview feature is something that support you to have a quick look at what will be changed in your cluster even before you actually merge the chain to the with repo. So you can see what will be changed before the CD really trigger. So it's safer and it's easier to review, because the manufacturing thing is sometimes too much to just review 5 by 5, but we need a glance to actually understand what will be changed. For the on deployment, we have progressive delivery. Basically, it's supporting canary and blue-green pattern. And beside, we also have the IDI, we call it IDI. That's something I showed you before. This is one state deployment. You can see that we have an analyst state, and the analyst state, at the analyst state, we use the metric that collect from metric provider like Datadog or Prometheus, and we use that metric to decide that the canary rollout is okay or not. So if any problem exists, we can automatically roll back it easily. For the post deployment, we have the deployment insight feature. That's something that the information showing below. We follow the four key, what can I say? The 4 key rule. I mean, we need some, as developer, we need something like deployment frequency for our application, or the fail chain rate, and the time from the start changing until the chain is applied to the real cluster, and something like that. And the deployment insight feature that's showing you all the things that you need. And next one is about maximum automation. And I said PipeCD is just CD, and we focusing only on CD, but it's not just like that. We also have the way to interact with CI as well. And for the CI flow, we finished at pushing the artifact to the artifact hub. And after that, we have a way to trigger the CD run automatically by a feature called event watcher. And with this feature, we can automate our flow from the code changing and serial running until CD automatically trigger, and we can plus with the plan preview feature to understand exactly what will be changed, and after we merge that, the CD will actually be triggered and run. Next one is something I think is interesting for you guys. This is the point of having one interface for every application kind is the deployment chain feature. You can see here in the Terraform application configuration, after the application of Terraform be synced successfully, I can trigger to running the next deployment in chain. And the interesting thing is that the next application would be trigger can be whatever application kind that having already in PipeCD system. The thing simply just look like this. First thing is an Terraform application. After is be triggered successfully, the post thing in chain trigger the next application. In my previous simple config, is triggered by name. The name is application 2, and PipeCD will find whatever application 2 name, and it could be Kubernetes or Cloud Run or whatever as the group 2. And after that, running the next one is application 3 of Kubernetes, just like that. So you can build a full system of whatever type application mixing in with a single simple application configuration. Next one, I would share some status of PipeCD at our company. Currently, we have 5 built-in application platform provider. Each platform provider support one kind of application that PipeCD can deploy currently is Terraform, Kubernetes, GCP Cloud Run, LS Lambda, and LS ECS. And we are trying to make it programming-able and plugin-able so that the community can contribute that for us. And currently over 2,700 applications already be managed by PipeCD in our company already. For the future work, we have something in our roadmap. First one is make it plugin-able. The second one is some feature like breach detection. Currently, it's not working well for ECS and Lambda application. So we are trying to bring it to the guys application as well. And this one is we need we think it could be great if we can bring more information at plan preview feature so that the developer can easily review. This one is thinking about make more provider for analyst state, and for the community ones, we apply for join CNCF sandbox. And this is the end of the slide. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I'm opening up for a couple of minutes of questions.
Yeah, please.
I guess I can go first. Thank you for the presentation. It's really interesting to watch. Can you describe a little more around who the typical operator would be writing these pipelines? Do you differentiate between a product engineering team who would just use it, or would you see this as being something that they would own as well? Would they write their events that they're expecting? Would this be something that DevOps and SRE engineers would do more?
Sure. I think, wait a minute. I have a graph for that question. You can see here that the PipeCD system designed by 2 components. The big one is the control plane, and the second one is the agent. And in our design, the platform team will be the host and operating for the control plane. And each team in our company use case, they will install a PipeCD agent in their cluster, and it can be whatever they want. And the developer, the product team, will be in chain of installing PipeCD, and they will write down the configuration for their own application. The team structure kind of software engineer and SI member struck with the same team, so they can easily, they already have their ownership of what they use and what platform they use. So manifest creating is their own ownership, and they will do that. So you can see the graph is answer what you question.
Yeah, one follow-up question. Thank you. What efforts have been made to lower the amount of knowledge that a team would need to onboard to this? I think that's what my first question was getting at. Like, what are the things that you've done in this project that really reduce that overhead of knowledge complexity?
What do you mean? You mean what is the overhead that the project
So
is requiring?
as an engineer deploying in cluster A, B, or C, how much do I need to interact with PipeCD?
They have an UI for that. They have an UI on control plane, and they need only to use the agent one, the PipeCD agent one. And after that, whenever they have a new application, they just need to create a simple application configuration. And after that, it's just like a normal hit-off thing. They can just change the configuration repo, merge the request, and everything else will be automatically handled by the PipeCD agent. And they can view the deployment state, view the deployment pipeline on the UI of PipeCD. That's all. They do not have to do anything else. And we want to bring it for any type of application, not just the community. And we already done it for Terraform, Cloud Run, ECS, and Lambda.
One final question, thank you. In the Kubernetes app kind custom resource, when there's a canary rollout, how are you able to determine the signals for a successful rollout? Is there a way to hook into liveliness and health checks?
Yeah, you can see that I'm already talking about the ADA. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Sorry,
That's okay. I can go read the docs if it's there.
Okay. This one. This one. For the RONA, basically, if you do not, you can have two kind of apply. The first one is you just apply and you don't care anyway. So basically, we do not have any kind of health check or something. But if you really care about that, you can add this kind of analyst state. This state check for the health check by request or by metric or log. We currently support 3 kind of analysis. And this configurable state, and you can configure something like you want the metric about these things is 50% pass or something like that. You can configure it, and how long you wait for that. You all can configure it via this one. And because this one is independent from the application guide, you can use it not just for the communities, but via the application guide as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, that is the point to make it separate from the application guide. So anything else? Thank you for question.
Yeah, I think looking at the time, thanks for sharing it. I'd also advise to stay in the app delivery chat. You posted all the links in there. That's great so that people can look it up.
Oh, thank you. I will put
Yeah.
it.
I would propose moving on to the next presentation, which is obviously the Microx presentation. Yeah, for PipeCD, please add some links so that people can find all the details. And let's move on to Microx, please.
Yeah, here we are. So I'm Yassin. I'm one of the co-founder of Microx, and we're going to share a short presentation. So this is the second presentation that we have in front of the TAG group. This is a follow-up of the first presentation that we have done at the KubeCon Amsterdam. And so I'm going to try to make it short on the intro, because maybe a recap for some of you. So Microx is an open source project, Kubernetes native, fully dedicated to API mocking and testing. And we clearly focus on enterprises' pain. And we really would like to help enterprises to accelerate and secure their API and application cloud native deployment. And to do so, Microx is not only a tool by developer for developer, as we also aim to create a bridge between owners and asset within enterprises and organization. By owners, I mean all the parties within a company, which mean developers, of course, internal and external, but also partners, if you are using some, and product owners, business owners, because that's important for us to have a collaborative tool between all these parties within the same organization or multiple organizations for the same purpose. Next slide, please. Because by asset, what I mean is all kind of APIs. And why? Because clearly we really think that a single type of API does not fit all. There's a huge amount of diversity within the way you can use API, develop API, different specs and protocols. And this diversity is important from our point of view. First of all, to take care about legacy system and all the organization who still have some UML and sub UI application in production, to help them to migrate and modernize this application and move to open standard like Open API or a solution like gRPC and GraphQL, but also to mix and match with event-driven system and reuse Postman collection for testing purpose, for example. And one of the biggest value and point for Microx, and something we really take care about, is the fact that we would like to provide the same and single approach in order to manage all this type of assets, specification, and type of API or different type of protocols. The next slide is here. I just want to drill down a little bit on async API, because it's something which we're missing from our point of view, and we've embraced the async API specification since day one, because we clearly think that it's important to have something in order to specify async protocol like we've been able to do it with Swagger and Open API. And that's why Microx has been at the cutting edge of async API specification. And today, we already have support and integration of 8 different async protocols within Microx. I'm not going to name them, but the latest one we have added and the commit has been done today, it's AWS, SQS, and SNS, and that's based on community user requests. And next slide, and that's where we're going to change the way we're going to do our second presentation, because we really would like to showcase what we have in hand and what Microx is. So Laurent, up to you, man.
Thank you, Yassin. So hi, everyone. I'm Laurent. I'm also the co-founder of the project with Yassin, and I'm on the technical side of things. So here's a brief demo on the project features. So here you can see there is an empty Microx instance, and I'll try to illustrate the different use cases of Microx. So first, you can use it in with the UI or in a pure headless through APIs. And what we have is obviously an empty repository. And with Microx, you can feed the repository using different methods. You can push at each and every commit your artifacts to Microx, or Microx can poll your Git repositories for you in order to discover, to update API definitions. Or you can also use a hub, and we are going to use a hub here. It's like a public community marketplace when you can put products, standards, or regulatory APIs, and thus share your mocks and test suites for your APIs. So it's very handy for distributing test suites for open banking or open insurance standards, for example. So this is the way we distribute our own samples. And we start with the mandatory API everybody must have, the one related to pastries. So I can easily install it into my Microx instance. And once I have imported my API definitions, I will have an API pastry endpoint. And this is a live endpoint with all the operations being simulated and being available as live endpoints as they have been developed. So you can see that it's very fast to deploy sandboxes to allow people to try out new APIs. So it's really shortened the feedback loop during your design iteration, because the mock definitions is always in sync with the latest revision in your repository. And it also eases the life of developers, because they can start developing without waiting for API or microservices to be ready. And so very handy to build a complex environment. You can see right here that these are dynamic mocks for each and every operation. And the nice thing is that Microx is inferring behavior, dispatching rules depending on your artifacts, and it provides smart dispatchers to implement tricky things. So, for example, it can route on different, some different parts of the URL. It can route on the body content, on header content, and you can also implement your own routing rules. Microx knows the different specificities of the different protocols. So, for example, it is able to realize content negotiation for REST APIs, but also to realize attribute selection for GraphQL APIs, to realize, of course, protobuf serialization for gRPC. And it can also simulate your response time of your API. So really provides a handy and uniform approach, whatever the different kinds of APIs. So let me, for example, install a new gRPC API definition, and you can see that it's the same way of doing things right here. Let's start now with GraphQL. And if I now check the repository, you can see that I have all these types of APIs that are managed the same with ready-to-use, sorry, let me show that, ready-to-use endpoints like here. If I want to play with and to discover some APIs. So really easy. Next thing we are going to see, it's not the samples, but talking about a real-life application. Let's say, for example, we have a real application with a REST API that registers users, and we are going to see the second use case of Microx in action. This is about testing. So here I'm going to use the import from Git feature to just import my new registration API, so I can activate and it connects to Git and it retrieves the API definition. So this is my user registration API right here with just one operation for registering users. And this application, in fact, has been already deployed onto my Kubernetes cluster. Here it is. This is the user registration with the ingress, and this is my application. And what I'm going to do right now is use Microx to check that what has been deployed is actually conformant to my OpenAPI contract. So really easy with Microx, I can launch a new test. Okay, just putting here my endpoint, my ingress endpoint of the real API I want to check. Okay, and right here, just choosing a runner. So a runner allows you to apply a testing strategy. So right here, we're just going to test that everything that has been deployed is conformant with my OpenAPI schema. So really easy, just a test. I've launched it manually, but of course you can load this into your CI/CD pipelines to be sure that with each and every deployment, you do not introduce breaking changes or regression into your API specification. So for example, I've recorded everything. So it's also very handy to be used to compare behavior of APIs into different environments and troubleshoot things. So just to finalize the demo, we can now add some more events because in my real life application, I also want to send event each and every time I register a new user, and I'm going to send it onto a Kafka broker that is just right here. A Kafka broker, yes, that hosts topics for gathering these events. So thanks to the async API support in Microx, I can also import a new async API definition. And you can see that I have now a new event-driven API with mock messages that are published to my connected Kafka broker. So as a consumer, I can easily grab those events that are produced each and every 10 seconds, for example, this is default, and I can start playing with it without having to wait for the producer to be ready. So I can now, yes, gather some new events. Let's wait 10 seconds. If the demo gods, yes, they are with me. Okay, so as a consumer, I can start working without having to wait for the event producer. Okay. You can see, by the way, that there are some dynamic parts in my events to allow some better simulation. So using some expression, I can generate random things to have better illustration of a real life and smart mocks. The final question is how I'm going to test all this scenario, how to be sure that my REST API is conformant, but it also triggers the publication of an event that is also conformant. And that's the nice part with Microx, because you can have all this kind of testing scenario with Microx. We've previously seen the synchronous part, but Microx is also doing the same things for events. It is able to connect to your application broker to listen for messages, and then it tries to validate them according the schemas that is in the spec. So it could be your own schema, JSON, Avro schema, or a cloud events-based schema, for example. And of course, you can put everything in a pipeline. So that's what I've just illustrated right here. So you can see here that there is a Tecton pipeline that is using this feature. So just after having deployed my app, I am launching new Microx tests, and these are parallel tests. On one hand, I'm testing OpenAPI stuff regarding my register API, and on the other branch, I'm testing the async API stuff, checking that there are messages, events that are published accordingly to my specification. And the nice thing also is I can do exactly the same things if I'm a GitLab user. So basically, we provide a Tecton task, but also plugins to be able to plug Microx check in each and every pipeline CDs possible. That's it for the demo. So just a quick summary, trying to be very, very short. We've seen the 3 goals we tackle with Microx. The first one is that we are using Microx to shorten the feedback loop. We are deploying smart simulations of your API before it exists so that you can iterate very quickly on your specification. We are also using Microx to ease the developer experience, to allow parallel developments, but also to ease the build and the deployment of sandbox. And we know that this could be a huge pain when turning to microservices and trying to cope with dozens, hundreds of microservices. It's regularly a huge pain. And the third one is that we are using Microx to check that everything we've deployed is conformant with the spec, but also we did not introduce breaking changes if we want to follow semantic versionist principles, if we don't want to break the compatibility rules, for example. Yassine, up to you for the conclusion.
Yeah, just to wrap up, I mean, this is just to illustrate that we are really ecosystem focused, and we already support and are fully integrated with some CNCF project and open source solutions. And we also have a public roadmap for this purpose. So that's just to let you know that there's plenty of tools which are already supported and stuff which are coming in the roadmap. And the latest slide is just to showcase that we already have some adopters. So we have a list online. That's something that we have created a few weeks ago. So it's brand new, to be honest, and it was to support our sandbox submission as well. But this is a testimonial from JB Hunt, which is from OpenView, very, very interested based on the fact that they are clearly expressing where they are coming from, why they have selected Microx, the pain it has been able to solve out, and the win and what they gain from an application lifecycle development point of view. So here it is, and thanks for listening. Hope we've not been too long, and happy to answer any question you guys may have.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
I just have one very quick question because we're very short on time. Are you going to create exporters to generate client SDKs eventually?
Yes, so currently we are working to enrich the set of CRDs that already exist into our operator-based deployment. So this is a way to interact with Microx and to even more automate the creation of sandbox, for example. This is a very frequent use case that is asked by the community. And we also, during this work around the CRD, we're also working on creating some kind of SDK or official client to be able to allow more interaction with Microx between design tools, between also catalog tools. We recently published an integration with Backstage so that you can gather API definitions from Microx in order to sync them into Backstage. So yes, this is definitely on the roadmap.
What did you mean by secure? I noticed that you called out that these can accelerate development and secure APIs. What does it add there?
Secure in a way that it allows you to really enforce all the conformance checking that are absolutely necessary when you develop APIs, because we all know that the hardest thing is not to deploy the 1.0 version of your API. It's to deploy the 1.8 and being sure that you do not break anything regarding the 1.7 and 1.6 or all the consumers are still using the 1.4 contract for interacting with your API. So that's what we mean really by secure, in a way that, yes, you are securing the delivery process.
And also being able to facilitate and fully automate the QA process as well.
I personally like the idea of using this in industries like healthcare, where I, as a developer, might not have access or need access to personally identifiable information and stuff like that, but I need parity with the APIs as they're developed. So I really like that use case.
So we hope that some of our community users can express publicly what they are already doing in this type of area with Microx. Yes, because we already have pretty nice use cases and users in, who are doing healthcare solutions. And Sam, and by the way, that's an important comment regarding all the personal data and the data set that you can use as example. With Microx, you can use that on-prem in a closed environment with a set of data which are maybe sensitive for production, but that you can use as example within Microx and share with the others without, let's say, less worries about exposing real data.
Yeah, I think it might.
I have a.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the time, and we've got more topics. I think this is super interesting. I think there's way more questions. So, first of all, I'd invite you really to join the Tech App Delivery Slack channel in the CNCF, where people can ask you questions. Maybe we come back for a more deep dive based on the question as well. So you're always invited to do so. Plus, post any additional supporting links as well, please. It's really, we have a very busy agenda right now, and I'm definitely deliberately holding back on questions that I also want to ask offline as part of the chat. All right, the next topic for today, Victor.
Okay, I know that we are almost out of time, so my question is, shall we do it now or?
At least I would like to better understand where you want to go with this one. I mean, we still have, I mean, we can go almost on top of the hours. If you can give us just maybe a 10-minute rundown.
Sure, okay. Yeah, so what we did is basically summarized in this image. We were discussing for a long time within GitLab, how should we discuss environments, because everywhere we still discussed, it's about the pipeline, and GitLab has a CI pipeline, so at GitLab as well, it was about the pipeline. On Slack, when I wrote about it, Justin wrote back with a link that shows you very well how much it is pipeline focused, because the CDF created these two amazing resources that you can read if you want. But what we wanted to look at is really how from the user's perspective, how does it look like? So from the environment and what's there. And we came up with this glossary. Up to this point, I haven't seen a similarly documented process to discuss the environment and the whole domain, if we are not focusing on the pipeline, which in a better word would be an implementation detail. So my question is, if this sounds interesting for the tag, whether we are definitely happy to move it over to the tag if it's interesting for us to document it there, and actually GitLab would just refer to that. So that's totally fine for us, and that's why I thought to propose this as a topic for you to think about it. I said all of you have to lean forwards to see the font size, but if I increase the font size, then it won't fit the screen. Let me still do it. I will skip the bottom part because those are very basic elements, and then this way it might be easier to see. So basically, what we say is that there's something we call an environment that has a target infrastructure. That's where in the end deployments will happen through the environment, and there's a rollout stage of each environment deployment pair. Of course, environments have configuration that's attached to them. Deployment includes applications that have a configuration as well, and the application is built up of artifacts. So like these are the core entities that we managed to identify in the past years, I would say. And we think it's quite generic to be useful for parts of a white paper or the common vocabulary to speak about application delivery.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of projects who like use various points in here in like different, even with different meanings. Like even if you look at the term, what an application is, as you know, depending on the tool, it's an entirely different meaning. The same for rollouts and others. So my question is, what would be your desired outcome of this? And set of CRDs that describe this?
I'm not sure whether that's for me. It's really to make it easier to discuss for the users what's happening in this fair, because as you said, there are lots of different tools with different vocabulary. Actually, what you see here is not the GitLab vocabulary. So GitLab doesn't have anything that's called a rollout. It doesn't even have anything that's called an application. So it's not our vocabulary. This is what we have seen that resonates very well with our users, and that's how most of our users spoke about these things. And we tend to move towards this vocabulary for that reason. But actually, it's my impression was mostly that as we recently released the platform white paper and stuff like that, it could help a lot to have a common vocabulary to discuss these terms, and not technology focused. So not focusing on the pipeline and all the details there, but really focusing on the end user primary entities that flow across those pipelines.
Yeah, I mean, I
Touch a little bit on API, which is what I think Alois is alluding to with saying CRDs and stuff. Like these are names that could apply to an API.
Could, yeah, they could. It's
more about semantic meaning more for human discussion. That's what you're getting at.
Exactly. That's what I mean. So we were thinking about introducing, for example, application CRD for GitLab for Kubernetes related things, but we haven't made that decision yet whether we want it or not. It's more for human discussions.
One thing, wherever we go right now, it might be good to, we want to encourage people to open GitHub issues for these things. So if people want to discuss asynchronously, they can. So maybe open an issue on this.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's also good, and I think the vocabulary is helpful. I think somebody would need to do like the extra work and look at which different application definitions exist. I think that. And I know that Thomas has already done some of this work, like also how rollout definitions and therefore are different and the same, and like what people usually specify there. I mean, this goes obviously beyond just the human description, but like Argo rollouts has a rollout descriptions, Flagger has rollout descriptions.
Yeah.
And we could go on like this and how they're the same and how they're different. And that might then maybe result in a more standardized API downstream. I'm just saying might, because I also don't think it's that I'm not entirely sure how far we can get there. But my proposal would be to also socialize this with the projects as well. So I think they definitely open an issue that people comment on. I think it's a very good idea. We might have to just break it maybe down later on into smaller chunks. I think just application definition, as we started to talk about this, is really challenging by itself, not even including rollouts, environments, and others. Also, some people have very strong opinions, like the Kubela people, for example, do. Others do as well. Yeah, I think raising the issue, and I mean, it would be fine to see, okay, what's the commonality, and maybe where some more common API might get out of this eventually. And yeah, maybe just starting with, okay, what it is, and even like listing the different possibilities. That's where I think quite some work started in the beginning, just listing, okay, this is how different people see things, which would be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
But my proposal would be to socialize it also with the other projects, Because I think if you have them on board and you see that there's some willingness to agree on some topics there, I think it could be super helpful, or even just for people understanding the difference of those specifications.
Yeah.
Maybe let's discuss it in the next meeting, also giving you more time and seeing maybe what the feedback of especially the projects is that use these definitions, obviously beyond GitLab.
Perfect. Thanks for the quick feedback and the early feedback.
All right, I think we were slightly over time here. Lots going on today. Thanks again for the presentation. Please again feel free to post any additional links in the agenda. Also check the Tech App Delivery Slack channel, as people might come up with questions after those meetings. Some are also watching the recordings later on and are not joining the meeting. So I would appreciate if you make yourself available and just at least infrequently check on these topics. Thanks. I had it in the beginning. Yeah. All right. I think we'll meet again in 2 weeks from now.
2 weeks actually.
3?
This is first and third. Well, yeah, we miss May 31st is a Wednesday. So there's 5 Wednesdays in May.
Okay. Yeah, good. And by then, just as a quick heads up, I'll also work on preparing, because we have to now run the re-elections of the TUC chairs. And I'll share some updates on the process then in the next meeting already. All right, thanks everyone for joining. Very interesting presentation. Great for the new projects as well. Good to see more happening in the app delivery space. Also great we have now testing also appearing. PipeCD also looks very interesting. Some of those concepts look incredibly familiar to me. So also looking forward to trying out those tools as well. Also, if you have a getting started tutorial, please also post this. That's, I think, most likely the easiest way for people to get started, because people usually want to try it out with some examples. If you have those, and I think it's generally a good idea to have an easy getting started to work on those topics. Yeah, and with this, thanks everyone for joining today. See you again in a couple of weeks, and yeah, see you otherwise on Slack. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, bye.